Platinum or silver? Sophia held up 2 sets of cufflinks, her smile warm, expectant. You know the gala theme. Platinum would look perfect with your tux. Cole stood by the tall windows, espresso cup in hand, his silhouette framed against the city skyline. He didn't turn to her. He didn't even glance at the cufflinks. Instead, his voice cut through the morning calm, sharp enough to chill the air. You won't be at the gala tonight, Sophia. She blinked, lowering the cufflinks. What do you mean? Of course I'm going. I've been planning this night for weeks. You promised. You'll embarrass me if you show up. Cole finally faced her, his smirk razor thin. Clarissa is coming with me. For a moment, she thought she'd misheard. Clarissa? Her throat tightened around the name. My Clarissa? Your Clarissa? He gave a humorless laugh, setting the empty cup down with a delicate clink. She hasn't been yours for a long time. She's mine now. She fits me, Sophia. She has the poise, the confidence, everything you lack. The cufflink slipped from Sophia's trembling hand, hitting the carpet with a muffled thud. Her breath caught, her chest rising and falling as though she'd been struck. She wanted to scream, to demand how he could betray her like this. Instead, all that came out was a whisper. After everything I've done for you, after the years Spare me the sentiment. Cole cut her off, his tone brisk. He strode to the table, picked up a sleek leather folder, and crossed the room with deliberate steps. He held it out to her with the kind of cold efficiency one might use to hand over a business contract. This is what I've been waiting to say. Our marriage is over. I filed the divorce papers. The folder was heavy in her hands, heavier than she thought possible. Her fingers shook as she opened it, eyes darting over the cold legal language, each word a knife. You're divorcing me? Her voice broke. Now, on the very night of your biggest achievement? Our biggest achievement. My achievement, Cole corrected smoothly. Not ours. Let's be honest, Sophia. You've been a liability more than a partner. And I don't intend to drag dead weight into the future I've built. Her eyes burned, but she forced herself to meet his gaze. Dead weight? I stood by you when no one believed in you. I emptied my savings, fought your battles, convinced investors to trust you. I gave you what any ambitious man eventually outgrows, Cole said flatly, cutting her words in half. A stepping stone. And now I've stepped past you. The cruelty in his tone was worse than the words. She pressed the folder to her chest, as though it could shield her from the reality slamming into her. Clarissa. Divorce. Replacement. Betrayal. Does she know? Sophia whispered, voice trembling. That you're discarding me like this? That you're marrying her off the back of? Of course she knows, Cole replied coolly. Clarissa understands me. She won't cling to the past the way you do. Something inside Sophia cracked. Her tears finally spilled, hot and unbidden, but Cole's expression didn't waver. He looked at her as though she were a failed business deal, an investment gone bad. Sign them, he said, nodding at the folder. It'll be easier that way. I've already arranged the settlement. You'll have enough to live quietly, far away from me. Sophia's hand clenched around the folder until her knuckles whitened. The room, once their sanctuary, now felt like a gilded prison closing in. Her gaze swept over the wall she had decorated, the polished shelves lined with books she'd chosen, the photographs where she had once stood proudly by his side. Every trace of her life in this house suddenly looked borrowed, fragile, unwanted. Cole! She tried one last time, voice breaking on his name. Please, don't do this. Don't throw us away for a moment of pride, for her. But Cole's eyes were already elsewhere. Cold, determined, done. Silence stretched between them, heavy as stone. Sophia's tears blurred her vision, but she refused to let him see her crumble completely. She drew in a shaky breath, squared her shoulders, and lifted her chin just enough to meet his eyes with something close to defiance. "You may think you've won tonight," she said quietly, "but the empire you built on betrayal won't last. Not with her." For a fleeting moment, Cole's jaw twitched, a flicker of irritation breaking through his perfect composure. But he said nothing. He simply turned, picked up his watch from the dresser, and fastened it with practiced calm. The dismissal was final. Sophia's knees trembled as she stepped back, clutching the folder like it was her last anchor. She wanted to scream, to shatter the porcelain calm he wore like armor, but the words lodged in her throat. Instead, she turned and walked out of the room, each step heavy, deliberate, carrying her further from the man she had once believed in, and the life that had just collapsed around her. Behind her, Cole's voice came one last time, smooth and cutting. "Make sure you're gone before I return tonight." Sophia froze for half a heartbeat, then forced herself forward. She didn't look back. She couldn't. If she did, she feared she'd shatter into 1,000 pieces. The door closed softly behind her, but inside her chest the sound was deafening. The sound of an entire chapter ending. And though she didn't know it yet, this was only the beginning. The city's night air greeted her with a cold sting. Neon lights flickered, cars rushed by, laughter spilled from bars and restaurants. The world kept turning, indifferent to her broken heart. Her steps carried her aimlessly until she found herself before a quiet, upscale bar tucked away on a corner. The kind of place Cole never bothered with. She hesitated, then pushed the door open. Inside, amber light glowed across polished wood. Jazz hummed low, and shadows softened the edges of her grief. Sophia slid onto a stool and ordered a drink. Then another, and another. She lifted her glass, staring into the blurred reflection in its golden depths. Her lips trembled as she whispered a toast to herself. "To Cole Frederick, the man I built, and the man who destroyed me." Now that, a smooth voice cut in. "Is a toast worth joining?" Sophia stiffened. Turning, she found Justin Holt sliding onto the stool beside her. Tall, tailored, exuding dangerous calm, Cole's greatest rival was impossible to mistake. His eyes flicked briefly to the leather folder tucked at her side before settling back on her face. "Mr. Holt," she breathed, unsettled. "Mrs. Frederick," he countered easily, signaling the bartender with 2 fingers. A glass of whiskey appeared before him without a word. Or should I say, the wife who drinks alone while her husband parades another woman on his arm? Her heart skipped. "You saw them? I see everything," Justin replied smoothly. "But this," he raised his glass toward her, eyes gleaming with calculation. "This is a far better sight. Cole Frederick's queen, abandoned and drowning in liquor." Her chest burned. She turned away, muttering, "I don't need your pity." "This isn't pity," Justin said with a low chuckle. "It's opportunity." The word made her stomach twist, but the alcohol already fogged her edges. Her hand reached for the drink, and when her fingers slipped, he steadied them, lingering, deliberate. "Drink with me, Sophia. If Cole doesn't want you, why not let his rival show you how a real man celebrates?" Something in her wanted to resist, to push him away, but her world was already collapsing. So she drank, and Justin, watching her crumble, felt satisfaction coil in his chest. The night blurred, glass after glass, laughter that wasn't real, words she'd regret spilling, her hand brushing his by accident, then lingering too long. When her vision faltered and her body leaned into his, Justin leaned back, not to stop her, but to lead her further. By the time he guided her out of the bar, Her steps were unsteady, her eyes glassy. Morning light shimmered. Sophia stirred groggy, the pounding in her head a cruel reminder. She blinked, confusion crashing into her as she realized she wasn't home. The sheets smelled strange. And then, horror. Justin Holt was sitting at the edge of the bed, shirt undone, watching her. Her breath caught. She scrambled upright, dragging the sheet over herself. "What did you do?" His expression was unreadable, but his voice was quiet. "What I shouldn't have, what I intended as revenge, and what I regret the moment it was over." Sophia's voice broke. "You used me to humiliate him." "Yes," Justin admitted. His eyes, though, weren't cold anymore. They flickered with something else, shame, longing, confusion. But somewhere between pouring that last drink and watching you fall asleep beside me, it stopped being about Cole. It became about you. Her tears spilled, trembling down her cheeks. "Marry me," Justin said suddenly, his voice hoarse. "Forget him. Be mine instead." Sophia shook her head, broken and furious. "I was discarded in the morning and used at night. I won't belong to anyone ever again." She gathered her clothes with trembling hands. Justin reached for her arm, but she pulled away. "Don't follow me." The door closed behind her, leaving Justin in silence. He raked a hand through his hair, frustration darkening his eyes. Then his gaze fell on the folder she had dropped on the floor. He picked it up, opened it. Divorce papers. His chest tightened. The knowledge hit him harder than he expected. This wasn't Cole's wife he had taken. This was a woman already broken, already discarded. And he had chosen that moment to make her his weapon. For the first time in years, Justin Holt felt ashamed. The morning sun filtered softly through the curtains of a small townhouse on the quieter side of the city. The home was nothing like the glass castle she once lived in, but to Sophia, it was freedom. The walls smelled of fresh paint she had chosen herself. The shelves filled with books she read to her son each night. "Mom!" A cheerful voice rang out, and Sophia's heart lifted instantly. She turned from the stove, spatula in hand, as her little boy ran into the kitchen barefoot, hair sticking up in all directions. His laughter filled the air like music. "There you are, sleepyhead," she teased, placing pancakes on his plate. "Eat up, champ. You've got school today." The boy grinned, but before biting into his pancake, he leaned forward to kiss her cheek. Best mom in the world. Sophia froze for a moment, overwhelmed, before she ruffled his hair. "I don't need palaces. I don't need diamonds. I just need this." For years, she had built a life away from the shadow of Cole Frederick and Justin Holt. Every brick of her peace had been earned through struggle, but also through pride. She was both mother and father to her son, and she wouldn't trade that for anything. But peace never lasts. It happened one afternoon at a bookstore. Sophia was bent over a shelf, helping her son pick out a history book, when she felt the air shift. A familiar voice, sharp and commanding, cut through the silence. "Sophia." Her body went rigid. Slowly, she turned. Cole Frederick stood a few feet away, dressed immaculately, his eyes narrowed as they fell on the boy at her side. The child tilted his head curiously. "Mom? Who's that man?" Sophia's throat closed. She wanted to grab her son and run, but it was too late. Cole's gaze locked onto the boy, and he saw himself. The sharp jawline, the way his eyes crinkled when he frowned. "My God," Cole whispered, a slow, cruel smile spreading across his face. "You hid my son from me." "He's not," Sophia started, but Cole raised a hand to silence her. "You'll regret this," he hissed. You think you can erase me from his life, Sophia? That child is mine. He carries my blood, my name, my legacy, and I'll make sure the whole world knows it. Before she could respond, he strode out, already pulling out his phone, the eyes around watching the display, some already capturing the moment with their devices. 2 days later, the headlines blazed. Frederick Heir revealed. Billionaire's secret son hidden for years. Photographers swarmed their quiet street. Reporters shouted questions. Sophia shielded her son, fury burning in her chest. But another man was watching, Justin Holt. When the story broke, he had chuckled at first. Another scandal to shake Cole's empire. But then he saw the boy. The photographs plastered everywhere showed a child who wasn't Cole's reflection, but his. Justin's breath caught. The boy had his eyes. His exact eyes. The world seemed to tilt. That night in the hotel room, what he thought was a weapon to humiliate Cole had created something real. Someone real. Justin couldn't ignore it. And at that point in his life, business and rivalry didn't matter. He wanted the boy. He wanted his son. The courtroom was packed, the air electric with scandal. Reporters jotted notes, cameras flashed, and the city's most powerful names leaned in to witness the war of billionaires. Sophia sat at the center, her hands clenched together, her son's future balanced on the words about to be spoken. Cole's lawyer thundered first. Ladies and gentlemen, my client, Cole Frederick, was deceived. His wife abandoned him, hid his child, and deprived him of his rightful heir. This boy is the future of the Frederick Empire, and my client will not be denied his bloodline. Cole rose, face hard as steel. That is my son. He deserves my name, my fortune, my protection. And I'll drag her until he's where he belongs, with me. Gasps rippled through the crowd. Sophia's lawyer tried to speak, but Justin stood abruptly, his presence silencing the room. His voice carried, smooth but edged with fire. Enough! That boy does not belong to Cole Frederick, because he isn't Cole's. He is mine. The room erupted. Cole's face twisted with rage. Yours? You dare! I dare because I know what I see. Justin cut him off coldly. Look at the child. Look at me. Even blind men can see the truth. Sophia's heart pounded. Both men were claiming him, fighting as though she wasn't even there. Your Honor, Justin continued, his tone sharpened by conviction. I may not have known the truth for years, but I won't turn away now. That boy is my flesh, my blood, and I will raise him as he deserves, not as some trophy in Cole Frederick's glass tower. Cole slammed his hand on the table. You're a liar, a vulture who stole what was mine. No, Justin said, his voice cutting through like a blade. You discarded her, and I loved her, even if I realized too late. Sophia stood suddenly, her chair scraping loudly against the floor. The entire courtroom turned to her. Her voice trembled at first, but grew steadier with each word. Enough! Both of you! Cole sneered. Sit down, Sophia. Don't order me, she snapped, her voice echoing. You speak of heirs, legacies, bloodlines, but not once have you spoken of him as a child. My child. You're not fighting for him. You're fighting for your egos. You don't see him at all. The courtroom fell into silence. Tears burned her eyes, but her back was straight, her voice unwavering. He is not a prize to be won. He is not your empire's jewel or your redemption. He is my son, and I will burn every empire in this city before I let either of you break him the way you broke me. The judge banged his gavel, calling for order, but the weight of Sophia's words lingered heavy in the air. For the first time, both billionaires faltered. not because they feared each other, but because they realized they might lose. And in that moment, Sophia was no longer the discarded wife, nor the weapon of revenge. She was the storm, and the court would have to decide how much destruction she was willing to unleash. The courtroom hummed with tension. The air was thick, heavy, as though everyone inside knew history was about to be written. Sophia sat at the center of it all, her hand on her son's shoulder, her body stiff with both fear and strength. Justin's lawyer stood first. "Your Honor, before this court delivers its verdict, my client requests a DNA test to establish paternity. The child deserves to know his true father." Cole's lawyer slammed the table. "We object. This is a transparent attempt to confuse the matter. The boy is Cole Frederick's heir. Everyone can see it. A test is unnecessary." Cole himself rose, voice cutting like a knife. "My son is mine. I don't need a piece of paper to prove what blood already shows." The judge's brow furrowed. "Mr. Frederick, this is a court of law. Pride and assumption hold no value here. If there is a legitimate claim, the truth must be examined. This court orders a DNA test. Results will be presented in the next hearing." Gasps erupted from the gallery. Cole's face tightened, rage flaring in his eyes, but he sat down, jaw clenched. Justin, meanwhile, allowed himself a quiet exhale, as though one step closer to certainty. The judge shuffled the papers before him, then looked up, voice grave. "Before we adjourn, this court will render judgment on matters of divorce compensation, custody, and damages. Our decision is based not only on testimony presented here, but on thorough investigation into the lives of all parties involved." A hush fell. Sophia's eyes stung, her lips trembling. For once, she felt truly seen. The judge's voice sharpened as he turned toward Justin. "Mr. Holt, this court has reviewed the evidence, the testimony of the bartender, the receipts, and your own admission. You spiked Miss Sophia Parker's drink and exploited her vulnerable state. No amount of regret can erase that act. You will therefore pay $20 million in damages, placed in trust for her and her child. This is not a punishment alone, but restitution for the years she carried the burden of motherhood while you and Mr. Frederick thrived on power. Wealth does not absolve responsibility, and power does not silence accountability." Justin's jaw tightened, but he did not argue. He then shifted his gaze to Cole. "As for you, Mr. Frederick, this court finds that you divorced Miss Parker unjustly, without due compensation, after she sacrificed years of her life to build your empire. You will cede half of your holdings to her, effective immediately. Consider it not only reparation, but recognition of her rightful share in what she helped create." The courtroom erupted. Cole surged to his feet, face crimson. "You're destroying me. She'll ruin everything." The gavel slammed. "Sit down, Mr. Frederick, before I hold you in contempt." Cole dropped back into his chair, his fury swallowing him whole. The judge leaned forward. "As for custody, until paternity is established, the child will remain with Sophia Parker. All evidence shows she has provided a loving, stable environment, free of excess, scandal, or neglect. This boy is thriving not because of wealth, but because of her devotion." The gavel struck once more. This court adjourns until the DNA results are presented. Reporters erupted in a frenzy. Cole stormed out, seething. Justin lingered, his expression calm. Sophia sat frozen, tears spilling silently, her son's small hand clutched in hers. A week later, the courtroom brimmed once more. This time, tension was electric. The envelope containing the DNA results sat on the judge's desk like a loaded weapon. Cameras clicked. Whispers ran like currents through the crowd. Cole sat stiff, his lawyer whispering strategy in his ear. Justin leaned forward, eyes locked on the envelope as if it held his soul. Sophia sat still, her son out of sight safe with a friend. Her hands trembled in her lap, but her spine was steel. The judge cleared his throat. The results of the paternity test are here. Once opened, they will determine... Wait! Sophia's voice rang out, firm, unwavering. The judge paused, eyes narrowing. She stood, every gaze in the room snapping toward her. I object. Cole scoffed loudly. Of course you do. You're afraid of the truth. Silence, the judge snapped. On what grounds, Miss Parker? Sophia's voice trembled, but her eyes burned bright. On the grounds that my son is not a prize to be won. For weeks, I've sat here while these men spoke of heirs and legacies, as though my child is nothing but an empire's jewel. But I know who he is. He is the boy who runs to me when he has nightmares, who asks 100 questions before bed, who dreams of rockets and stars. He is mine. Biology does not define that. DNA will not decide him. The courtroom hushed to stillness. Sophia's hand pressed over her heart. Your Honor, I ask this court to seal those results. They do not matter. What matters is that I am his mother, and I have raised him in love. Neither man fought for him before. They only fight now because of pride. I will not let that envelope dictate his future. The judge regarded her for a long, heavy moment. Then he nodded slowly. This court acknowledges that custody has already been awarded to Sophia Parker. Paternity, while significant, is not determinative in this case. The results will remain sealed. Cole shot to his feet. This is outrageous. That boy is my... Sit down, Mr. Frederick, the judge thundered. You forfeited the right to fatherhood when you discarded your wife without compensation, without respect, without thought for the life you created. You do not get to demand what you abandoned. Cole collapsed back into his seat, defeated. Justin said nothing. His eyes, however, remained fixed on Sophia, torn between longing and guilt. The gavel struck. This case is concluded. The courthouse steps were alive with chaos, reporters talking almost at the same time, cameras flashing. Cole stormed past them, broken and humiliated, his empire halved. Sophia waited until the crowd thinned before stepping into the marble hall. That was when Justin approached. He no longer looked like the untouchable titan of industry. His tie was loosened, his eyes raw. He stopped a few feet away, voice quiet. Sophia. She turned, her expression unreadable. I regret that night, he said, voice low. More than anything, I thought it was about humiliating Cole. But when I saw you lying there, I realized it was about you. And I've thought about you, and now him, every day since. I don't want to own you, Sophia. I just want to be part of your lives. If you'll let me. Her throat tightened. For a brisk moment, she almost believed him. But then she remembered the long nights of rebuilding, the mornings of pancakes and school bags, the laughter and tears she shared with her son alone. Justin, she said softly, thank you for saying that. But I don't need saving anymore. Both of you tried to own me when I was broken. Now I'm whole. My son and I will decide our path. Not your wealth, nor even your love. Justin's eyes flickered with pain, but he nodded. For once, he had no words. Sophia walked past him, her head high. Outside, her son ran to her, arms wide. She caught him, holding him close, burying her face in his hair. Mom, he whispered, his voice small against the roar of the press. "Are we going to be okay?" Sophia smiled through her tears, holding him tighter. "We already are." And together, hand in hand, they stepped into the blinding light. Not as pawns in a billionaire's game, but as a family no power on earth could take away.